edition of Bet. I'm your host, Anita Marks. Ben Baby and I are going to break down some NFL futures that you can get in on now. Also, we've got the Tour Championship. It's the last leg to crown a champion, I should say, in this year's golf tour, where they'll walk away with $18 million. That would buy me a lot of shoes. But first, let's welcome in Ben Baby. He covers the Cincinnati Bengals. Ben, how you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing great, Anita. It's awesome to be on Bet. I'm ready to look at some NFL futures here tonight.
Let's do it. All right, so we're gonna start with some NFL futures, some superlatives, right? Things that you could wager on now that, as we know, will hopefully hold up till the end of the season. So let's start with the total points that will be scored this season in the NFL. You could wager the over or under on this at 12,495.5. Are you going over or under, Ben?
Hey, Anita, give me all of my allocation for the year and let me hammer that under. And let me tell you why. You know, you look at the point drop-off from 21 to 22, and it was astounding. In fact, there was a lot of questions about why the scoring was down around the NFL, and we've seen defenses really start to take things away. And, you know, I cover the Bengals here in Cincinnati, and we saw what teams did to the Bengals. They went ahead and said, you're not going to beat us with explosive plays. If you're going to go score a touchdown, you're going to have to go on a 10, 11-play drive, take up small chunks of the field, and get your 7 points that way. We saw teams do that to Patrick Mahomes as well. And it shows that what's going to happen in that case is that you're going to see fewer possessions in games, and therefore fewer points are likely going to be scored. So even if you're an efficient offense, you're going to have less points on the board. And we saw that number be significantly lower than what it is listed for the over-under for this year. So give me the under in that regard.
All right, so right from the get-go, you and I are on opposite sides of this. I'm going to go over here, right? Kansas City, they put up almost 500 points last season. The Eagles put up 477. As we know, this year, can you ever remember back where we've had such a plethora of really outstanding quarterbacks and really explosive offenses that we're anticipating? So let's just say out of the 32 teams, somewhere around 15, 16, you're talking about an average of 21 points per game. Times 32, times 17, puts us around a little over 11,500, almost 12,000. On top of the fact that, again, I'm expecting some really explosive offenses this season. Not to mention the NFC is just, you look around the NFC, Ben, no bueno, my friend. I mean, there's going to be some really easy matchups where I think there's going to be a lot of overs that are going to happen, especially against those NFC opponents. So I'm on the opposite side here. I am going over. Okay, so a team to score the most points. Now, no surprise, the Chiefs are favored there at 5-1. Or plus 550, Eagles up there, no surprise. Look, I just talked about all these explosive offenses we're going to see this season. Kansas City, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Detroit. So with that being said, if you're going to the window on this wager, who would it be?
You know, Anita, I've learned a few things covering the NFL the last few years, and one thing that I think is very much true is that you do not bet against Patrick Mahomes when the money is in his favor. You look at that plus 550 around that you mentioned, that shows you how much confidence the bettors and the odds makers have in the fact that Mahomes will continue to be good. And go look at what he did last season. I think we're not talking about Patrick Mahomes enough. The Kansas City felt so good about its offense that they went ahead and traded away Tyreek Hill, who's considered one of the most explosive wide receivers in the NFL, at a time when offenses and general managers, they're making sure they give their quarterbacks as many high-end receivers as possible. And what does Mahomes do? He goes out and has a historic season, puts up insane numbers, and the gap between him and everybody else is really astronomical. So with that being said, I like Patrick Mahomes. I like for that trend to continue. And even though I don't think, I will disagree with you all day if I could about the total for number of points, but I think that it's hard to disagree against Patrick Mahomes leading the charge in this category.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you, Ben, baby, and I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I hear what you're saying about Kansas City, but at some point in time, Kansas City is going to have some type of regression, right? Outside of Travis Kelce, who's getting up there with age, Sky Moore right now is expected to be the leader out of the clubhouse in regard to most targets, right? No more Mecole Hardman. He's not there. Tyreek Hill's down in Miami. Dare I, with all due respect, say that Patrick Mahomes is really working with a number of 2 wide receivers and 3 wide receivers on and in that wide receiving room this season. So I think at some point in time, we've got to see some type of regression. Meanwhile, for the Philadelphia Eagles, boy, I think they're going to be really explosive. I love the addition of DeAndre Swift to that backfield. We see how he was utilized with the Detroit Lions in the passing game. And this is going to be a Philadelphia Eagles team in an NFC East division that is going to have a lot closer games, especially in the second half. Keep in mind, the Eagles, they'd come out, they would destroy folks. One of the best wagers you could have made last season was the Eagles in the first half or the Eagles in the first quarter. That's not going to be the case this season. They're going up against much better competition, and games are going to be really decided more so in the fourth quarter, banking on that passing game, that explosive offense with Jalen Hurts, as opposed to them just running the football in the fourth quarter to eat up the clock and secure the win. So I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles to put up the most points this season in the NFL. Now let's talk about the team that we are anticipating to score the fewest points, okay, this year in the NFL. And let's take a look at those odds. Houston, no surprise there. Arizona, Tampa Bay, which, by the way, today or yesterday it was reported Baker Mayfield now is going to be the starting quarterback for Tampa Bay. Washington, Sam Howell. The Colts, Anthony Richardson. The Rams, boy, they sold their soul to the devil to win a Super Bowl. Now they're reeling. Chicago, Carolina, Tennessee. So looking at these odds, who to you is the team that's going to score the fewest points this season, Ben Baby?
Yeah, Anita, you mentioned the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield being announced as a starting quarterback for the upcoming season, and that's one of the reasons, unfortunately for Baker, one of the reasons I'm picking Tampa Bay here. I saw that offense in person last year. I saw what it had become under Tom Brady. I watched Eli Apple run off the field and say, the future is now, old man, and that told me, yeah, there's probably a good chance Tampa Bay is going to have a different quarterback. And enter Baker Mayfield, a guy who has had some flashes, a former top pick from his days at Cleveland. However, last year he had the worst QBR of anybody in the NFL. In fact, his completion percentage over expectation, according to our friends at ESPN Stats and Information, was -7. That is not good. That means he completed 7% fewer passes than he was supposed to. And I think that's a big number. And then most importantly, you look at where Tampa Bay's at. You still have some good receivers. I think Mike Evans, should be getting Hall of Fame consideration whenever he hangs them up. I think Chris Godwin, very solid as well. But you look at that run game, and that's where I have some questions. In Cleveland, that was an offense predicated around the rushing attack, and they always had 2 solid running backs. They had a lot of boot game, a lot of nakeds. They were able to move Baker Mayfield around a lot, and a lot of that success is because how much defense respected the run game. Is that going to be the same in Tampa? That remains to be seen, and so that's why I'm taking the Bucs.
So I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts here. And that might surprise some folks because they're like, what are you talking about? Anthony Richardson, right? Drafted top 5 this season. Uber athlete coming in is supposed to blow the doors off of all the Colts and offensively and what he's going to be able to do. But I'm not buying it, right? Dude's coming in, not a lot of, 1-year starter at University of Florida. 50% completion percentage against subpar competition, right? Not a lot of experience coming in. We always hear about the speed of the game. I think that's going to be difficult for him. I think this is going to be a year where he's going to learn, grow, develop. Maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll anticipate to see Anthony Richardson be the quarterback that I think a lot of people and a lot of scouts know that he can develop into. But this first year, it's going to be tough sledding. So I think this is going to be an offense that's going to be one-dimensional. I don't think he's going to be able to throw the ball effectively. I think the only way that the Colts, if they continue to utilize him as a starting quarterback and not switch out to Gardner Minshew, which I don't anticipate them doing, I think they're going to be one-dimensional. I think it's going to be really easy for defenses to defend them. So because Anthony Richardson is the starting quarterback for the Colts, I am going to go with the Colts at 11-1. All right, let's take a look at some of the NFL overtime bets. Okay, these are fun as well. So the NFL, how many overtime games are you anticipating this season? The number, Ben Baby, is at 19.5. So you are over under that 20 games, 19.5, 20 or 19 games are going to go into overtime this season. Which side are you on?
You know, Anita, I think the number one rule of being a sports writer is you root for yourself in these situations. And every sports writer I know, we do not root for overtime. We want that game to end right at the end of regulation. And I looked at, and so I might be a little biased here, but go ahead and give me the under. And the reason is I went back and looked at the numbers because this is a very unique, prop that we have here. And the number fluctuates on the amount of overtime games that we've had over the last 5 years. Now, this number set at 19.5 falls kind of in line of kind of the mean of what we are used to seeing over, let's say, a 5-year period. Now, the reason I'm going under is because of the analytical trends that we've seen in the NFL, and especially we get younger coaches. We've seen more teams embrace analytics. We see how teams are aggressive on fourth downs, in their day-to-day play calling. The Bengals, we did a story on them a couple years ago. They have somebody in head coach Zach Taylor's ear giving them the odds and the probabilities as they're going through and making in-game situations. And you're seeing teams be a little bit more aggressive. And, the odds of you being able to win a game at the end of regulation as opposed to overtime, I think you look at it and, we'll just break this down, in common parlance. If you have one play at the 2-yard line to win a game, you've got to like your chances there as opposed to maybe kicking an extra point, taking the game into overtime, then getting back into a winning position that you were in at the end of regulation. So will we see teams continue to go for it more instead of sending games into overtime? I have a hunch that we may, because the odds tell us that there's a greater chance of you getting the victory in that way. So I'm going to take the under.
I am with you. We're 11 minutes into the program, possibly 12. We're finally agreeing on something, Ben Baby. So I'm going to take the under as well. 20 games went into overtime last season. 21 went into overtime in 2021. But 647 games have gone into overtime since they established the overtime rule 1974 through 2002. So that would average about 13.5 a season. So I'm going to go with the under here. Just doing the math, right? Now, let's talk about which games will end in a tie after overtime. A lot of people say, what? A tie is like kissing your sister. Yes is minus 650. No is 4-1. What side are you on here?
Yeah, we listed that, the math seems to make sense in the way we're taking the pick here. I'm saying that, yes, if a game, we are going to get games that end in a tie this year. And as much as we may not like to see it, I'm a soccer fan. I don't mind it sometimes. Sometimes a tie is good, better than a loss. But what we see in the NFL is that sometimes, you go back and look at it, and you're hard-pressed to find a year recently that did not have a game that featured a tie. And you look at the shortened amount of time. You now look at the number of possessions, the way that the rules have changed in overtime, and you're more likely to potentially get a draw at the end of these games. And so you look at it, and I've seen a lot of games where, you're waiting and you're saying, there's a chance you get to the 2-minute warning. The game is still tied, and it takes just a couple of plays for that to occur. And because of how it's favored, there's no prop on the number of games for there to be ties. It's just a simple yes or no. Given what we've seen, the trends that we've spotted, I think it behooves anybody not to say that there will be a tie at some point this season.
I'm just going to go with no, just because I like the better odds at 4-1. Through 2022, a total of 88 regular season games went into overtime under these rules, and 7 of those 88 ended up in a tie. So just for the mere 7.9%, give me the no at 4-1. If I was to go to the window, that's how I would play this. All right, let's play a little game, Ben Baby, of take your pick. Geno Smith over 3,900.5 passing yards, or Aaron Rodgers, the star of New York City now, right? Over 3,950.5 passing yards. Take your pick. Which one do you like better?
I'm still a little skeptical on how Aaron Rodgers is going to be. Listen, I get the Hard Knocks hype. I get the kind of momentum he's building in the offseason. I'm a little skeptical. That being said, give me Aaron Rodgers. I like those receivers. I really like Garrett Wilson. I'm interested to see what Mecole Hardman brings to the table. I know they lost Corey Davis, who today announced his retirement, but I still think there's enough resources on that offense to be good. So I'll take Aaron.
Well, we're going to disagree here. I'm going to go with Geno Smith. He's got DK. He's got Tyler Lockett. Drafted their rookie wide receiver, JSN. Eventually, I will be able to pronounce his name properly. Explosive offense. Aaron is going to be turning 40 in December. And I'm screaming at the mountaintops. People aren't listening to me. I've got some major concerns about that offensive line. So I'm going to roll with Geno Smith. Here's another one for you. Jalen Hurts or Derek Carr, over 3,700 and a half passing yards. Which one are you taking?
Oh, I'm taking Jalen Hurts. I have doubted Jalen Hurts for way too long. I watched him go from a high school prospect at Channelview to being a quarterback at Alabama, then to Oklahoma. I was skeptical at how well he was going to do in Philadelphia, and last year he really caught my eye. I think he's developed a ton as a passer. They've given him some really good receivers. I think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, that rushing game, a force to be reckoned with. Going to be a lot of big passing windows, and I expect Jalen Hurts to take full advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, ditto, lockstep with you. 3,700 passing yards last year in 15 games. And like I said earlier on the program, Ben, I think he's going to be passing the ball a lot more. I like the addition of DeAndre Swift in that backfield, being utilized in the passing game, where we didn't see a lot of that with Miles Sanders. And I think they're going to come down to some really close games where they're just not going to be able to run the football and eat the time of possession off the clock in order to win football games this season. So I'm with you. I'll roll Jalen Hurts. Last but not least, Dak Prescott or Tua. All right? To pass, either one of them to pass for over 4,000 yards. Which one are you taking?
I'm taking Dak Prescott here. I have not understood all of the Dak narrative talk that's happened over the last, since last season. There's a lot of conversation about his turnovers, but he was throwing into some really aggressive windows. The Cowboys go out, they get him Brandon Cooks. I expect that offense to be good, and I still have concerns about Tua and his injury history. Can he make it through the whole season without getting hurt? Because of that, I like the odds, and I like taking Dak.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I don't want to be a negative Nelly. I'm a true believer. I don't like throwing stuff out there in the universe, but I'm with you. I've got some major concerns in regard to Tua being able to stay healthy, avoiding the concussion issue. And I really do believe that if he does suffer another concussion, I think some serious conversation is going to be had. Not just is he going to return this season, but will he return at all to play in the NFL again? I think there's some really big concern there. So I'm with you. I'm going to go Dak Prescott. So Ben, baby, thank you again for joining us. Some fun conversation as we're just, a few weeks away from the NFL regular season kicking off. I'm sure we'll see you a lot come football season. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Anita. Always a pleasure.
You got it. All right, as always, before we let you go, we like to talk about the Tour Championship this week. Before I give you my picks, let's check in. We got Michael Collins, a.k.a. the Caddy, ears and eyes on the ground in Atlanta. Let's hear who he likes heading into this week's tournament.
Two things about the Tour Championship here at East Lake this week. One, who can shoot the lowest score of the week? See, because the person who shoots the lowest score isn't necessarily the person who's going to win. So who's going to win and who's going to shoot the lowest score? But we're going to start with lowest score. How about Xander Schauffele? You want to talk about a guy who loves this golf course? He's probably got the lowest scoring average of everybody out there who's playing this week because he loves it so much. And years ago, his rookie year, the first time he made it here, he shot the lowest score of the field. So he's done it before, and I think he's going to do it again. Now, who's going to win? Well, Rory McIlroy. Yes, I understand he's not starting with the lead. Scotty Scheffler is again, and Scotty's been hitting the ball fantastic. But Rory has got the juice. He's won this 3 times before. And to think he can be a 4th FedEx Cup winner and win it 2 years in a row, yeah, I think Rory has the moxie for this one.
Michael, thank you so much. Again, love his eyes and ears on the ground. So how am I playing this? How can you not love Victor Hovland to win this bad boy? After that back nine this past Sunday at the BMW Championship, one of the best performances I've seen probably ever. Even in the Tiger era, he's coming in with confidence, swagger, like he's arrived. Top 10 in strokes gained total, tee to green, as well as off the tee. Here's some top 10s that I like. Wyndham Clark, how can you not love him? What great season he's having. Finished 15th at BMW. East Lake sets up for him well in regards to driving accuracy and approach. That's what he's going to need in his bag. Corey Connors, give me the Canadian. Tied for 5th on the field in strokes gained off the tee in his last 3 months. 4 top 20s, 3 top 10s. Especially in his last 5 events, he has looked outstanding. Lucas Glover, does he still have enough gas in the tank to perform here? I do. Solid strokes gain on approach, total driving, as well as par 4s, 400 to 500 yards out. That's what they're going to be up against. And last but not least, Russell Henley. Finished 2nd, 6th, and 8th his last 3 starts. Final round 63, we're not talking about it because Hovland just totally crushed it, but starting at 3 under, so I do like him to finish in the top 10. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Bet this evening. We'll be back with you on Friday. Good luck betting. We'll see you then.